Hotep, how's everybody doing today? Hey, this is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. It is Tuesday, October 1st, 2019, and it is a fantastic Tuesday. Hope everybody's doing well today. Well, the breaking news story right now is ex-Dallas Police Officer Amber Guyger has been found guilty of murder in the murder of 26-year-old Botham Shem Jean. We know that this case rocked the country. You know, I reported a lot on this case when the story first broke, kept you abreast on a lot of the developments in the case as well, cited credible sources for it also, and separated fact from fiction. We didn't deal with a bunch of conspiracy theories and nonsense like that, okay, because I don't deal with that type of stuff, all right? So we're going to deal with this breaking news story. It's a very fluid story, so there's some updates that I've seen. I've looked at Washington Post, New York Times, ABC News, also NBC News as well, okay? So there's some updates that I've seen to the articles. Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page. Invite your friends to tune in also. We're going to break this down. And then I'm also going to look back. I pulled out my stack of articles dealing with this case. And number one, I knew she was going to be found guilty. I knew she was going to be found guilty because I looked at the facts of the case as best we knew it, even before the trial started. Two, the affidavit that she did for the Dallas Police Department on September 7th, 2018. Some of the facts in that, in what she told the Dallas Police were different than what she told the Texas Rangers in the affidavit on September 9th, 2018. So that was problematic right there. All right. So let me share this here on our Facebook page. So everybody follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network. Share this broadcast also. Invite your friends to tune in as well. All right, let's go to the article from NBCnews.com. All right, and then African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast, and we'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. And, you know, I had been following this trial some. Now, I was just in Texas. I was in Houston, Texas this past weekend for the All Black National Convention that Dr. Boyce Watkins puts on. And I was on the panel Sunday morning. So as fate would have it, you know, I was just in Texas. OK, and this verdict came down. All right, let's see here. Let's go to the article here from NBCnews.com. And I'm also monitoring WFAA TV in Dallas, Texas as well. I'm monitoring them also. They just updated their article. Jury finds Amber Guyger guilty of murder and shooting death Botham Shem Jean, because I was watching some of their news broadcasts and some of the interviews that they did with the attorneys for the family, like Lee Merritt. So I was checking that out also. All right, so NBCnews.com has an article. Amber Guyger found guilty of murder at trial in fatal shooting of neighbor Botham Shem Jean. Geiger was off duty but in uniform when she shot Botham Shem Jean last year, in a case that has become a flashpoint in Dallas over issues of police use of force and racial bias. So we know that people in Dallas were furious about this, especially African Americans in Dallas were furious about this. We know that the former district attorney lost the election that took place. Faith Johnson was her name. She was an African-American female Republican. We know that she lost the election that just took place in, I think it was November 2018, partly over some of the way the community felt she handled this case. Okay, so now the district attorney there, or the prosecutor, is an African-American male. I forgot his name. Former Dallas officer Amber Guyger was found guilty of murder on Tuesday, October 1st, 2019, for fatally shooting her neighbor, Botham Shem Jean, after thinking he was an intruder when she mistakenly entered his apartment. Now, Amber Guyger, who has been out on $300,000 bond, faces a maximum of life in prison. Actually, what I heard was 99 years in prison. Okay, she faces. She was not immediately taken into custody and is awaiting sentencing scheduled for later Tuesday afternoon. So after the news came out, I heard that sentencing was going to start in about an hour. Okay, deliberating on sentencing would start in about an hour. There was an audible gasp in the packed courtroom as State District Attorney Tammy Kemp, K-E-M-P, read the jury's decision, and Botham Shem Jean's family later walked out crying and embracing, many wearing the color red, which was the victim's favorite color. We also know that outside of his apartment, there was a red floor mat as well, because he wanted his apartment to be distinct from other people's apartments. All right. So when you go through and look at the facts of this case here, one thing that I have not been able to find out, and I don't even know if the family attorneys, attorney Lee Merritt, attorney, and some of the other families, there's three main family attorneys, Benjamin Crump, I don't know if they have come to a conclusion what the actual motive was. I don't know if they've come to a conclusion what the actual motive was in the shooting. Okay, so in everything that I've looked at, I still haven't been able to find out what the actual motive was. All right, and when I go back and look at some of the facts of the case, there was no evidence that, early on people were saying, oh, they were in a relationship together, things like this. That was thoroughly debunked. S. Lee Merritt was on CNN and he talked about how they went through emails, they went through text messages, things like this. There was no evidence that there was some type of relationship going on between the two of them. And one of the problems with social media is that anybody has access to it. So all these conspiracy theories just started floating around. For instance, somebody went on Botham Shem Jean's Instagram page and they saw a picture of him with three white women. They circled one of the pictures, they circled one of the faces of one of the white women and said this was Amber Geiger, the police officer that killed Botham Shem Jean. Come to find out, these were his co-workers at PricewaterhouseCoopers. So, so the woman whose picture you circled and you circulated around this picture, not only was she not a police officer, not only was she did not shoot him, but she was one of his co-workers. So now you're going to spread lies about somebody that's totally innocent. This is why we have to be careful how we use this medium. This is why we have to separate facts from fiction. This is why you don't see me jumping on a whole bunch of conspiracy theories and things like this. I have to do research before we put information out here. Okay, so Amber Geiger has been out on a $300,000 bond. She faces a maximum of life in prison. Now, the jury was tasked with deciding whether or not Amber Geiger, who's 31 years old, acted reasonably when she used deadly force, and if the prosecution had proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally killed Botham Shem Jean, or if a lesser charge of manslaughter, which involves reckless conduct, was warranted. Okay, so they could look at murder or manslaughter. All right, they were tasked with whether she acted reasonably when she used deadly force, and if the prosecution had proven beyond a reasonable doubt that she intentionally killed Botham Shem Jean, or if a lesser charge of manslaughter, which involves reckless conduct, was warranted. Now, if we look at, and let's see, how's everybody doing? Let's see, we have Offset, Isis, we have Mills, Leonard, Habiba, Sadia, Nick, just a few of the people watching here. Everybody share this broadcast. So if we look at the article from WFAA, okay, which is in Dallas. This is a TV station in Dallas. And a lot of times you can get better reporting from the local news sources, like Dallas Morning News. I looked at a number of different sources. I've been following this case going back to September. Dallas Morning News had the best coverage. Day after day after day after day, Dallas Morning News had the best coverage on this, okay? If we look at the reporting from WFAA, Channel 8 in Dallas, the judge in the case was an African-American female. The judge, it says here, let's see, let me back up a little bit. During the cross-examination, prosecutor Jason Hermes pointed out that Amber Geiger texted her former police partner, who she was also involved in a sexual relationship, before officers arrived at the scene. All right. And let me see, I've got that article up here because I'm working off of 2 laptops. So just bear with me just a minute here because I'm only one person. All right. But I'm working off of 2 laptops. All right. So they also grilled Amber Guyger about her lack of action after the shooting, asked her why she did not use a first aid kit she was carrying in her backpack or perform proper CPR on Botham Shem Jean as he was on the ground dying. Amber Guyger was charged with murder, but the jury had the choice to convict her of murder, manslaughter, or choose to acquit. Here is the language from the jury charge on each of these terms. Quote, a person, so this is the instructions that the judge is given to the jury. Quote, a person commits the offense of murder if the person, 1, intentionally or knowingly causes the death of an individual, or 2, intends to cause seriously bodily injury, intends to cause serious bodily injury, and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. Okay, so what is defined as murder varies from state to state. This is what we have to understand. All right, so to get a conviction on murder, you have to, there are 2 elements. Well, to get a conviction on murder in the state of Texas, this is what you have to be able to prove based upon the evidence beyond a reasonable doubt. A person commits the offense of murder if the person, 1, intentionally or knowingly causes the death of an individual, or 2, the person intends to cause serious bodily injury, and commits an act clearly dangerous to human life that causes the death of an individual. Now, the judge went on to say, quote, our law provides a person commits the offense of manslaughter if she recklessly causes the death of an individual. All right, a person acts recklessly, or is reckless with respect to the result of her conduct when she is aware of but consciously disregards a substantial and unjustifiable risk that the result will occur. The risk must be of such a nature and degree that its disregard constitutes a gross deviation from the standard of care that an ordinary person would exercise under all the circumstances as viewed from the actor's standpoint, end quote. All right. So jurors had to determine whether Amber Guyger reasonably thought she was inside her own apartment at the time of the shooting, which was a bunch of BS, and whether a reasonable person in her position would have shot Botham Jean in the dark in self-defense, as she alleges. Amber Guyger was fired from the Dallas Police Department in the weeks following the shooting. All right. So there's more to this article here from WFAA Channel 8, ABC affiliate in Dallas. They had a lot of good reporting because I read a number of articles from WFAA. And if you listen to the African History Network show that I do on Sundays, 9 p.m. to 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation, you know that was one of the sources I was citing. Number 1 source was Dallas Morning News, then WFAA, and there were some other local affiliates that I looked at. Now, just to be perfectly honest, News1.com has some of the worst coverage. Okay, I like News One, but I have to be honest. I've said this before. I said this on my broadcast. News1.com has some of the worst coverage because I went through and I read the articles and I saw some of the inaccuracies that they were reporting on, even though they're citing the source article. When you go read the source article, the way they are reporting it was inaccurate, even based upon the source article that they're citing. Okay, so I like News One, but they have some of the worst coverage. I just have to be honest with you. All right. So that's why you ain't see me posting a whole lot. I posted a few articles from News One. I ain't post a lot of them because I'm looking at them and I'm looking at these inaccuracies that they're putting out. Okay. All right. So let's continue here. Let me do this. How's everybody doing? Sheetal, Vernell, Shirley, just a few of the people. Also, if you like this type of information here, you want to support the African History Network, you can donate paypal.me/the AHN show. Paypal.me/the AHN show. or at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Okay, click on the yellow donate button on the homepage. That helps us keep doing the research, finance the Sunday night show, finance the research, pay the bills, stay on the air, etc. All right, PayPal.me/the AHN show. Let's go back to the article from NBC News, NBCnews.com. Now, deliberations began Monday afternoon after a week-long, Monday afternoon after a week-long trial. So Monday, September 30th, 2019, deliberations began, which after a week-long trial, which included the playing of the 911 call that Amber Geiger made after shooting Botham Shem Jean, all right, and a dramatic body cam video from officers who responded to the scene. And Roland Martin has been doing some excellent coverage of this continuously, okay? Roland Martin Unfiltered. He's been doing some excellent coverage of this. And also Roland went down to Dallas, Texas for I think a town hall meeting, I think it was, with the prosecutor was there, some other attorneys, the police chief could not make it there, but Attorney Benjamin Crump told Roland what a big difference it made for him to come down there. And Roland televised this. He broadcasted it on Roland Martin Unfiltered. If you go to his YouTube channel, Roland Martin on YouTube, you can probably find it. But Benjamin Crump talked about how it made a big difference for him to come down there and to actually Roland moderated that town hall. That's the other thing. But it allowed a lot of the facts to come out and to separate the facts from fiction and the hearsay, etc. Okay, so deliberations began Monday, September 30th, 2019, Monday afternoon, after a week-long trial, which included the playing of the 911 call that Amber Geiger made after the shooting of Botham Shem Jean, and dramatic body cam video from officers who responded to the scene. Now, Amber Geiger was off duty, but still in uniform when she shot Botham Shem Jean twice on September 26, 2018, just before 10 p.m., striking him in the chest. She had worked a 13-and-a-half-hour shift on the Dallas Police Department's crime response team that day and parked on the 4th floor of the complex's range. She lived on the 3rd floor, and Botham Shem Jean, who's a native of St. Lucia, lived directly above her on the 4th floor. The two did not know each other. The fatal shooting, which has led to one of the most anticipated murder trials in Dallas in decades, became a flashpoint on issues of police use of force and racial bias. Now, Amber Geiger, we know, is white. Botham Shem Jean is black, of African descent, and the Botham Shem Jean family has questioned whether Amber Geiger would have shot him if he were a different race. Now, attorney Lee Merritt, who was the lead attorney for the family for the John family, representing them in their civil rights case, applauded the verdict and called it a huge victory for them as well as all Black people in America. Lee Merritt said, Lee Merritt is his full name, Lee Merritt said, quote, "It's a signal that the tide is going to change here. Police officers are going to be held accountable for their actions, and we believe this is going to change the policing culture all over the world," end quote. Now, another family attorney, Benjamin Crump, added that Botham Shem Jean was the quote-unquote perfect victim, a young Black man who was college educated and doing nothing but relaxing inside his home after work. Attorney Benjamin Crump said it shouldn't take all of that for unarmed Black and brown people to get justice. Now, prosecutors said Botham Shem Jean was watching television and eating ice cream in his living room when Amber Geiger burst inside, likely scaring him. The trajectory of the bullet showed that he was either getting up from his couch or cowering when Amber Geiger fired her service weapon, they added. Testifying in her own defense last week, Amber Geiger told jurors that she was scared for her life when she entered an apartment she thought was hers, and the man inside began coming toward her and yelling, "Hey, hey, hey." Okay. Now, the judge, yes, I think it was yesterday, the judge stated that either yesterday or Friday, because deliberation started yesterday, started on Monday. The judge stated that the jury could take into consideration the castle doctrine law, which is similar to stand your ground and gives someone who is in their home the right to defend themselves, use deadly force without having to retreat. Okay. But the jury didn't buy that. Okay. The other thing is Amber Geiger was a police officer. What police training are you citing that teaches you to shoot in the dark and you don't know what you're shooting at? Why didn't you just turn on the lights? Okay. I'm going to get into the discrepancies in what she told the Dallas police in the affidavit and what she told the Texas Rangers in the affidavit. Okay. Because in one of those instances, she was lying. Now, Amber Geiger, on the witness stand, said, "I never wanted to take an innocent person's life. I'm so sorry. This is not about hate. It's about being scared." Okay, so she cried on the witness stand, but all that stuff didn't work. Okay, the jury didn't buy it. Now, I do believe that she's sorry. She's sorry she got caught. And even after the shooting took place, she was on the phone and she said she effed up and all this stuff. Yeah, okay, but still, you're going to prison. All right. So Geiger admitted to giving Botham Shem Jean minimal life-saving aid because she had only one hand free while she called 911, and her state of mind was frantic. Geiger, who was on the Dallas police force for more than 4 years, was fired from her job following the shooting. Toxicology results presented at trial showed she was not intoxicated during the shooting. Okay, so this is leading up to the trial. We knew that a toxicology test was done, but we did not know the results before the trial. Okay, so the toxicology results presented at trial showed that she was not intoxicated during the shooting. Okay, so you can't blame it on the alcohol. All right, you know, some people want to blame it on the alcohol. No, you can't blame it on the alcohol. It was on her. Now, still to this day, and I've read like over 60 articles, probably now close to 70, 80 articles dealing with this case. I still don't know what the motive was. A clear, concise, verifiable motive. I still don't know what the motive was. So the defense brought on her defense attorneys brought on other tenants from the same apartment complex who testified that they had parked on a different floor and gone to the wrong unit by mistake. Okay. Now, Amber Geiger's attorneys also downplayed that she had been sharing sexually explicit text messages with her work partner, her police partner, the police officer she's a partner with. They were also having the sexual affair as well. Her defense attorneys downplayed that she had been sharing sexually explicit text messages with her work partner and was on the phone with him just before the shooting, which was revealed in the opening of the trial. All right. So NBC News. So this is something that we did not know before the trial. This is a detail we did not know before the trial. Now, what's important to understand is that the prosecutors in general don't prosecute cases in the media. Prosecutors in general don't reveal evidence and things like this before the trial. They wait till the trial to reveal the evidence. All right. So these are things that we found out during the trial. So NBC has an article, Amber Geiger was on phone with partner before shooting neighbor, prosecutor reveals. Amber Geiger was in a sexual relationship with her partner on the Dallas police force, and the pair were on the phone on the night of the 2018 shooting, prosecutor says. Okay, so this article is from September 23rd, 2019. Let's see here. The murder trial of ex-Dallas police officer Amber Geiger opened Monday with the revelation that she was in a sexual relationship with her partner on the city's police force, and questions as to whether she was distracted by a phone call with him in the minutes before fatally shooting her neighbor. Geiger's defense attorneys are not disputing that on the night of September 6th, she mistakenly entered the unit of Botham Shem Jean, who lived on the floor above her. But prosecutors introduced the state's case by attempting to show that Geiger 31 failed at every turn to prevent the deadly chain of events. Geiger was initially arrested on manslaughter charges, but a grand jury indicted her in November 2018 on murder charges. All right. Let's see here. Okay, so let me back up here. In a victory before the trial opened on Monday, lead prosecutor Jason Hermus, H-E-R-M-U-S, convinced State District Judge Tammy Kemp, who's African-American female, State District Judge Tammy Kemp, to permit Amber Geiger's cell phone records, web searches from the night of the shooting into evidence. In doing so, prosecutor Hermes on Monday revealed that the text messages showed that Amber Geiger had been having a relationship with Martin Rivera, R-I-V-E-R-A, her partner on an elite crime response team with the Dallas Police Department, and that she was on the phone with him as she drove into the parking garage and just prior to shooting Botham Shem Jean before 10 p.m. In addition, prosecutors said Amber Geiger sent Martin Rivera a sexually suggestive Snapchat message during the night of the shooting that said, quote unquote, wanna touch, okay, W-A-N-N-A, and that they had plans to meet up that night. During his opening statement, defense attorney Robert Rogers acknowledged that Geiger had thought of Rivera as her quote unquote rock, and that they began an intimate relationship that grew out of being co-workers and sharing a squad car. But Rogers denied Rivera had any actual plans to see Geiger that night, and that, quote, the relationship was ramping down, end quote, because Geiger was looking for someone, quote unquote, more stable. All right, so check out the rest of that article. I don't have time to go through all that. So then it goes to Geiger's mindset, okay? What was going through Amber's mind was that I'm done with my day's work. I'm going home, Rogers said. And let me see back up. This is defense attorney Robert Rogers. Geiger's mindset and how she could have failed to notice she was at the wrong apartment will be the focal point of this trial, which has become one of the most anticipated murder trials in Dallas in decades. Okay, so read the rest of this article here. All right, I just want to give some background context, because those are details that we did not find out about until the trial. All right, now let me go and look at the affidavit. Okay. And I'll give you two sources for this, and we'll post the links at the end of the broadcast. All right, so this is computer's running slowly here. So I want to look at the Dallas Police Department affidavit first. All right, because these are in my file folder on this case. So she was interviewed by the Dallas Police Department in the affidavit on September 7th, 2018. Then she was interviewed by the Texas Rangers because the case was turned over by the police chief, Dallas Police Chief, to the Texas Rangers, and that was September 9th. She gave two different accounts of what happened. All right, so just briefly to recap, when we look at the one from the Dallas Police Department, it says, let's see, during the incident, an off-duty police officer who was wearing a full Dallas police uniform was attempting to enter apartment number 1478, that's where Botham Shem Jean lived, with a set of keys. An unknown male inside the apartment confronted the officer at the door. A neighbor stated he heard an exchange of words, immediately followed by at least 2 gunshots. The officer possibly believed the subject was an intruder, drew her service weapon and fired at the subject, striking him in the chest. The subject, who was identified as Botham Shem Jean, was transported to Baylor Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. Detective Angela Arredondo, A-R-R-E-D-O-N-D-O, contacted Botham Jean's sister, Elisa Finley, and she confirmed that that subject, Botham Shem Jean, is the sole occupant of the apartment residence located at 1210 South Lamar Street, apartment number 1478. Okay, now, an affidavit, these are the statements that Amber Geiger gave to the Dallas Police Department when they interviewed her to put together. This is sworn testimony, an affidavit, okay? Now let's look at what she told the Texas Rangers, right? And Dallas Morning News, I got this from the Dallas Morning News. They have this, the Dallas Morning News, WFAA, They all have this, so you can go check this out there. Let's look at what she told the Texas Rangers. This is where the story changed, and so there were articles written based upon this. And if we look at one of those articles, because I just saw one dealing with this was from Dallas Morning News, September 10th, 2018. And that was a Monday morning, September 10th, 2018, after the story came out from what she told the Texas Rangers. Victim's family disputes official account of the moments before Geiger shot Botham Shem Jean. Okay. And this deals with the, if I remember correctly, this article here deals with the discrepancies. All right. So here's what she told the Texas Rangers. Let's see here. Complainant John is the resident tenant of number 1478. Geiger, who is a Dallas police officer, lives in the same apartment complex directly beneath the complainant in apartment 1378. Okay, let's skip over that. Geiger, who had just ended her still in her Dallas police uniform, arrived at the apartment complex and parked her vehicle on the 4th floor of the parking garage, which should correspond to the floor the resident lives on. Geiger entered the building and walked down the 4th floor hallway to what she thought was her apartment. She inserted a unique door key with an electronic chip into the door keyhole. The door, which was slightly ajar prior to Geiger's arrival, fully opened under the force of the key insertion. But that's not what she told the Dallas police. She said she was attempting to enter the apartment number 1478 with a setting. Just a minute. Okay. All right. So we're back for part 2. Had some technical difficulties with part 1 of the broadcast. How's everybody doing? We're back for part 2. Amber Geiger, former Dallas police officer, has been found guilty of the murder of Botham Shem Jean, which took place on September 6, 2018. All right, so everybody, we're back for part 2. Everybody share this broadcast on your Facebook page, share it on YouTube, invite your friends to tune in. Okay, we're gonna go continue to break down this case. Those that follow me here on the African History Network, you know I covered this case a lot when it first started and kept covering it as well. So when we left off in part 1, I had shared with you a portion of the affidavit that Amber Geiger gave to her testimony she gave to the Dallas Police Department. And I was talking about how it differed from the testimony she gave to the Texas Rangers, who were the state police. The case was turned over from the Dallas Police Department to the Texas Rangers. Okay, in just a second here. Let me start the video camera. All right, so how's everybody doing? We're back for part 2. This is Michael Imhotep, founder of the African History Network, host of the African History Network show. I'm a talk show host, researcher, lecturer, and writer. So today is Tuesday, October 1st, 2019, and a lot of people are breathing a sigh of relief. Former Dallas police officer Amber Geiger has been found guilty of the murder of Botham Shem Jean. Sentencing deliberation has already begun. She faces 5 years to 99 years in prison with no possibility of parole. She faces 5 years to 99 years in prison with no possibility of parole. Okay, so let's continue here. And African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com, customer service at africanhistorynetwork.com. Also, if you like this type of information, you could donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. All right. Okay, so let's continue here. All right, so let's look at the affidavit from the that she gave to the Texas Rangers. All right, so this was given, this affidavit was given on September 9th. Okay, September 9th. And the one she gave to the Dallas Police Department was given on September 7th. Okay, so in just a second here, I'm working off of 2 laptops and running slowly, and it's irritating me. Okay, so what she told the Texas Rangers was that Geiger, who had just ended her shift but was still in Dallas Police uniform, arrived at the apartment complex and parked her vehicle on the 4th floor of the parking garage, which should correspond to the floor the residents live on. So if you park on the 4th floor of the parking garage, then that means you live on the 4th floor of that apartment complex. Geiger entered the building and walked down the 4th floor hallway to what she thought was her apartment. She inserted a unique door key with an electronic chip, okay, a key fob. She inserted a unique door key with an electronic chip, okay. The door was slightly ajar. Let me see, okay, with an electronic chip force of the key insertion, okay. The door, which was slightly ajar prior to Geiger's arrival, fully opened upon the force of the key insertion. Upon the door being opened, Amber Geiger observed that the apartment interior was nearly completely dark. Upon the door being opened, Amber Geiger observed that the apartment interior was nearly completely dark. That is different than what she told the Dallas police. I'm gonna come back to the Dallas police affidavit in just a minute. Additionally, the door being opened alerted Botham Shem Jean to Amber Geiger's presence, believing she had encountered a burglar, which was described as a large silhouette across the room in her apartment. Amber Geiger drew her firearm, gave verbal commands that were ignored by complainant John, Botham Shem Jean. As a result, Geiger fired her handgun 2 times, striking the complainant 1 time in the torso. Okay. Now, that is totally different than what she told the Dallas police. Once again, she told the Dallas police during the incident, an off-duty Dallas police officer who was wearing a full Dallas police uniform was attempting to enter the apartment number 1478 with a set of keys. An unknown male inside the apartment confronted the officer at the door. A neighbor stated he heard an exchange of words immediately followed by at least 2 gunshots. The officer possibly believed the subject was an intruder, drew her service weapon and fired at the subject, striking him in the chest. The subject, who was identified as Botham Shem Jean, was transported to Baylor Hospital, where he was pronounced deceased. Detective Angela Arredondo, Arredondo, contacted Botham Shem Jean's sister, Elisa Finley, and she confirmed that the subject, John, is the sole occupant of the apartment resident located at 1210 South Lamar Street, apartment number 1478. All right. Now, here she didn't say anything about a large silhouette. What she told the Dallas police, she didn't say anything about a large silhouette. Okay. She didn't say anything about giving verbal commands before she fired her gun. All right. She didn't say anything about the apartment being nearly dark. That's not what she told the Dallas police. An affidavit is sworn testimony. Okay. This is what she gave the Dallas police. That is totally contradicted. Now, that was September 7th, the day after the killing. That's September 7th. That's totally different than what she told the Texas Rangers. Okay. That's totally different than what she told the Texas Rangers. So, which was September 9th. So now back when this happened in September, I broke this down on my show. Just because of that, I said she's going to be found guilty. Just because of that, I knew she was going to be found guilty. All right. So let's look at some updates. How's everybody doing? We're back here for part 2. Had technical difficulties. The broadcast stopped for part 1 for whatever reason. Has a technical difficulties here. I had to reboot the computer and everything. Okay, so we have Keela, Ashley, Trina, just a few of the people watching here on Facebook. Let me go to the article from the Washington Post because it has been recently updated. I've been watching these articles. I've been looking at these different articles here in the updates. And then also I was watching some of the deliberation that took place because NBC News at their website they have the they're showing the deliberation live as well. Okay, so the jury is deliberating. Let's go to let's look at the Washington Post. So jury deliberation resumes Tuesday afternoon to determine Geiger's sentencing. She could get 5 to 99 years or life in prison. Parole is not an option, the Dallas Morning News reported. I want to go to the article from the Dallas Morning News. I was looking at that one. They have basically like the best coverage. Testimony in the punishment phase of Geiger's trial will proceed this afternoon. So it was scheduled to proceed start back about 1 to 1:30 p.m. So it's already started. Once again, the judge is an African-American female judge, Judge Tammy Smith. In Texas, murder carries a sentence of 5 to 99 years or life in prison. Okay, 5 to 99 years or life in prison. The charge is not eligible for probation. Now, they laid out, this is State District Judge Tammy Smith, okay, who's an African-American female. They laid out 5 key moments so far in Amber Guyger's trial for killing Botham Shem Jean. This is another article. This is another article from the Dallas Morning News. This is from, this was updated October 1st, okay, after the verdict. And I just want to share a few quick things here. Okay, it's that article is loading. Okay, New York Times has an article also. Amber Guyger, ex-Dallas police officer, guilty of murder for killing her neighbor Botham Shem, neighbor Botham Jean. I was looking at that article as well. I'm waiting for the one for Dallas Morning News to finish loading. Okay, so video shows officers' frantic attempts to save John. On the second day of Geiger's trial, jurors saw body cam footage from the night of September 6, 2018, as officers scrambled upstairs and down hallways, rushing toward the apartment where John lay dying. The footage showed first responders desperately taking turns. Let me see. The footage showed first responders desperately taking turns performing CPR as John lies bleeding on the floor, unconscious with only a faint pulse. Amber Guyger appears briefly in Officer Michael Lee's body cam footage before he orders her to get away from John. She repeats as Lee moves past her, "I thought it was my apartment. I thought it was my apartment." "Chief, hey, can you hear me?" One officer says to Botham Shem Jean, who was on the floor in light colored shorts and a dark t-shirt, "Can you hear me?" Let me see. Residence Ranger testified about confusion foreplan. These are some key moments in the trial. Geiger's explicit text exchange with her police partner. We talked about this as well. About 30 minutes before the shooting, Amber Guyger sent Martin Rivera a Snapchat message that said, "Want to touch?" So she sent like explicit text messages. Rivera and Geiger were on the phone for 16 minutes as she drove home from work, a call that ended a few minutes before she shot Botham Jean. During her defense team's opening statements, attorney Robert Rogers portrayed the prosecution's sharing the text as a distraction. Geiger and Rivera both testified that there were no plans to meet later that night and that the text exchanges were just flirtations. Geiger also said Rivera had never been to her apartment. Witnesses can't tell jury they think Geiger acted reasonably. Also was a key turning point in the case as well. Okay, so check out that article. That's from Dallas. That's from Dallas Morning News. 5 key moments in Amber Guyger's murder trial for Botham Shem. 5 key moments in Amber Guyger's murder trial for killing Botham Jean. All right. Let me go back to the main article here from Dallas Morning News. And let's see here. Let me look at some of your comments while that loads up. Let's see here. On Tuesday, lawyers for the John family joined the chorus of critics saying it was asinine for the doctrine to go before the jury. This is dealing with the counsel doctrine, okay? Let me back up here just a second. So this direction from the district judge, state district judge Tammy Smith, caused a lot of concern. Geiger's lawyers have said that she who was fired from the police force shortly after she killed John was exhausted and scared when she heard someone inside her unit she thought was her own home. She opened the door, saw a quote unquote silhouette figure in the dark apartment, and feared for her life. That's not what she told the Dallas police, however. Okay, this is according to her attorneys. She said she asked to see his hands, but he just walked toward her. Okay, she didn't tell that to the Dallas police. She fired 2 shots. By her own admission, she was shooting to kill. By her own admission, she was shooting to kill. But because she believed she was in her own home, her legal team argued she was within her rights, acting in self-defense. It was, quote, a series of horrible mistakes, end quote, the lawyer said, quote, awful and tragic, but innocent, end quote. Dallas County District Court Judge Tammy Smith ruled Monday, September 30th, 2019, that the jury could consider the castle doctrine, a controversial law that says your home is your castle and you have a right to defend it. As the Washington Post, Katie Shepard reported, Judge Tammy Kemp's decision, quote, raised the bar for prosecutors and sparked outrage and disbelief from critics who questioned how the law could protect Amber Guyger when she shot Botham Shem Jean in his own apartment, end quote. On Tuesday, lawyers for the John family joined the chorus of critics saying it was asinine for the doctrine to go before the jury. Attorney Benjamin Crump compared it to the controversial stand your ground law, describing both as attempts to, quote, come up with justification to kill an unarmed Black person, end quote. The prosecution cast Geiger as careless and negligent, armed, distracted, and too quick to pull the trigger. Prosecutors call her defense garbage and absurd. Now, here is the thing that I think the judge was faced with. If the judge did not, the judge instructed the jury that they could take the castle doctrine into consideration. But that isn't the consideration dealing with all the evidence, because the defense was arguing that Amber Geiger thought she was in her own apartment. Okay. Now, even though we know that's BS, this is their defense. Therefore, I think the judge was faced with a situation whereas if she did not give that instruction to the jury, that they can take that into consideration. If Geiger was found guilty, then the defense could argue that the jury was not properly instructed and they were never given the option also to consider the castle doctrine, which possibly could set up a second trial, because they could say, wait a second, the judge gave improper instructions to the jury because our defense was she thought she was in her apartment. Okay. So I think the judge was faced with a probably a no-win decision, a no-win situation, where is if she didn't give those directions to the jury and saying that you can consider this, if she didn't do that, it sets up a possible opportunity to push for a second trial. And in doing so, then she gets opposition and say, oh, why did you do that? All right. So to me, looking at this case, it seems like the judge was in a no-win situation. All right. But the evidence was overwhelming here. Okay, so she was found guilty. All right, here, let's go to, let me kind of look at this again and go to some of your comments because something happened here with the screen. All right, we've got Yolanda. The judge avoided the mistrial call from the defense. Yeah, the judge avoided the mistrial call from the defense as well. And see, the other thing is why the prosecutors don't let a lot of information get out, or they're very limited on the information they allow to get out, is because the defense was trying to get a change of venue, because they argued that Amber Geiger could not get a fair trial in that county. Okay. And they were arguing for a change of venue. Luckily, the judge overruled that. Okay. Because if they allowed a change of venue and they're gone to a county and it's held in a predominantly white city, 80–90% white, could have been a different outcome. All right. This is why when situations like this happen, this is why the prosecutors don't try these cases in the media. They're very careful about the information they let out. Usually is very limited, the information they let out. And even Faith Johnson, because see, I covered this case closely, and I watched the press conferences that were held, even going back to late 2018. And Faith Johnson was the previous district attorney, okay? And she lost in re-election. She was originally appointed by the governor. She's African-American female Republican. Some people criticized the way that she handled the case. I was going through looking at certain things and understanding prosecutors. I know that they're very limited on what they can reveal to the public. And she said she has to be careful about the information she lets out, because the defense is going to push for a change of venue. And if that is granted, it's totally out of her hands. It'll go to another prosecutor. It could go to a white prosecutor, okay? It could be totally different and go to a predominantly white city. So luckily, this ended up positively, okay? So we don't know what the sentencing will be. And when we find out what the sentencing will be, I'll do an update on that. But luckily, this was good. Now, this was, they talked about how this was the first female, if I remember correctly, this was the first female Dallas police officer to be convicted of murder in, I don't know how many number of years. All right. So this was a monumental case. All right, let's look at some of your comments here. Also, we got Kim, Tracy. I remember when I used to work 16 hours. I never lost track of where I lived. Tracy said, I don't believe that made up story. Yeah. Now I live in an apartment, lived in this apartment 10 or 11 years. There have been times when I got off on the wrong floor. Okay. But as soon as I get off on the wrong floor, I can look at the floor. I can look at the hallway and tell it's different. And then there was one or two times that I went to put my key in the door. Now we don't have a key fob to actually get into the apartment. We have a key fob to get access into the building. But as soon as there was a couple of times, as soon as I put my key in the door, I look at the apartment number, I realize it's not my apartment. It's the same floor plan, right? But ain't no in the hell I'm gonna go into another apartment that's not mine. And then I see a silhouette in the dark and fire in the dark. What type of police training did you have to teach you to fire in the dark? And you don't have a night scope. What type of police training did you have that teaches you to fire in the dark at something and you don't know who it is? Okay. So that was nonsense. But once again, what she told the Dallas Police Department in the affidavit was different than what she told the Texas Rangers. Okay. What she said on September 7th was different than what she said on September 9th. All right, let's see here. Okay, we got Tracy. Okay, how you doing, Tracy? Terry Wallace. I have walked up to the wrong car of my exact model, but as soon as I noticed the mess was not mine, I turned around in embarrassment. Yeah, you know, so yeah, you can get off on the wrong floor. Yeah, you may put your key into the wrong door, but you're gonna notice some things. You're gonna notice the door number. Oh, the other thing that's a dead giveaway was that Botham Shem Jean had a red mat. See, red was his favorite color. He had a red floor mat right in front of his door. He had a red floor mat right in front of his door. Okay. She did not have a red floor mat in front of her door. That's another dead giveaway. All right. So there's numerous things. And when you go and look at this case, there's numerous things here that show that she was lying. All right. She was either lying or she was extremely distracted. She wasn't inebriated. The toxicology test came back, so she was not under the influence. So either she was lying or she had some extreme mental problems or extreme distraction or something. And if she can make mistakes like that, she should not be a police officer. Okay, what did she say? Somebody asked a question. Okay, Josh, thanks for covering this topic. TJ, bright pinkish red. Yeah, it's bright pinkish red. It was basically red. That was his favorite color, red. Somebody asked something about the apartment number. Let me see something here. What was that question? Yes, the red floor mat, Kim said. TJ, Mesquite, Texas police officer Amber Geiger shoots and kills native St. Lucia. Yeah, Botham Shem Jean. He was from St. Lucia. I thought I saw somebody ask a question dealing with the apartment number. But just for the record, his apartment number was 1478. Her apartment number was 1378. She lived right underneath him. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. Ashley asked that question. Okay. There's a delay in the scrolling of the messages because I'm using two laptops. There's a delay in the scrolling of the messages. So his apartment number was 1478. Her apartment number was 1378. Then she have to force her way in. Well, that's not what she told the Texas Rangers. She told the Texas Rangers as soon as she put the key fob in the door, she said the door was ajar. Well, she told the Texas Rangers the door, which was slightly ajar prior to Geiger's arrival, fully opened under the force of the key insertion. Upon the door being opened, Geiger observed that the apartment interior was nearly completely dark. Now, also what came out in the trial was that Botham Shem Jean's door, his door, like the door is supposed to automatically close. What came out in the trial is that his door was his door malfunctioned. That came out in the trial. I saw one of the reports dealing with this. Dallas Morning News may have a article on this, may talk about this. All right. But still, there were numerous clues there that you were on the wrong floor and this was not your apartment. Okay. There were numerous clues there dealing with that. All right, let me look at a couple more of your comments here. I'll let this scroll up. Then also, if you like this type of information, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN show, paypal.me/the AHN show. Also at our website, africanhistorynetwork.com, africanhistorynetwork.com. You can set up for a recurring donation also if you like as well. If you want to donate 10, 15, 25, 50, 100, what have you. This helps us keep doing the research, stay on the air, broadcast our Sunday night show, pay the bills. Also helps when I have to travel to different events where I'm speaking. All right. Let's see here. Okay. All right. Yeah, we've got you, Terry. I said, yeah, you realized that wasn't your car, you know. So yeah, we got you. I've got you. Let me look at some more of your comments. Okay, we've got Taja also. Okay, Teaspoon, how you doing, T? Dorothy, if the door was open, why put the key in the lock? Ashley, I know the comment. Okay, it's good. Okay. Yeah, she claimed it was open. All right. There's one other one I want to look at is reporting from New York Times, because I looked at a number of different articles here, and let me check something here. So all this stuff is happening at the same time. You've got impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump. All these criminals are going to prison. You got an impeachment inquiry into Donald Trump. Go back and watch the video I did September 26th where I broke that down, the impeachment inquiry. You got Mike Pompeo, Secretary of State, being subpoenaed. You've got Rudy Giuliani, who keeps doing interviews. And Republicans are even saying Rudy Giuliani needs to be quiet and stop doing interviews, because every time he does an interview, he implicates somebody else. Okay. And now I want Rudy Giuliani and Donald Trump to keep talking and keep tweeting, because they keep incriminating themselves and incriminating other people. All right. So then we have ex-Congressman Chris Collins, Republican member of the House of Representatives, pleads guilty in insider trading case. Now, he was one of the first ones to come out, first congressman to come out and support Donald Trump in this 2016 election. Okay. He's pleaded guilty. He's resigned from the House of Representatives, Republican. Ex-Congressman Chris Collins pleads guilty in insider trading case. Quote, I understood I had a duty not to disclose confidential information. Ex-Congressman Chris Collins told Manhattan federal judge Vernon Broderick before a packed courtroom as he pleaded to conspiracy to commit securities fraud and making false statements. See, all these criminals, see, all this information is coming out. What you do in the dark is going to come to the light. All this information is coming out. What people have to understand is that there were about 48 people around Richard Nixon who went to prison. There's about 48 people, okay? H.R. Haldeman, John Ehrlichman, his domestic policy advisor, White House counsel John Dean, all these people trying to protect Richard Nixon. They really need to go study Watergate, because there's going to be a whole lot of people around Trump going to prison, being sentenced to federal prison. There's going to be a whole lot of them. Even Richard Nixon's attorney general went to prison. Hello, William Barr. William Barr, you see, now you're going to see all these people around Trump having to lawyer up. Attorney General William Barr, Secretary of State Mike Pompeo. You're going to see a lot of them. They're going to have to get attorneys. Richard Nixon's attorney general went to prison. Hashtag study Watergate. You see me post that hashtag study Watergate. If you understand Watergate, I've said before, in January 2017, I said Donald Trump is going to be impeached and Donald Trump is going to be forced to resign from office. That's what happened to Richard Nixon. And the evidence, when they have impeachment inquiry hearings in the House of Representatives, all this information, all this corruption is going to come out. Trump does not want this to go to trial in the Senate, because he's going to have to testify. Now, the last thing somebody who's told over 12,000 false and misleading statements wants to do is testify in the U.S. Senate under oath, and is being televised to millions of people. And you have elections coming up in 2020. Senator Mitch McConnell's son of a Mitch, Moscow Mitch, is up for re-election in 2020. People in Kentucky have to organize to vote him out of office, because people outside of Kentucky can't vote for senator of Kentucky. Only the people inside Kentucky can vote. African Americans need to organize with some woke white people and some others, Hispanic, everybody else, to get this son of a Mitch out of office. Okay, people outside of Kentucky can't vote for Senator of Kentucky. Only the people inside Kentucky can vote for Senator of Kentucky. All right, he's Senate Majority Leader. Democrats have to take back control of the U.S. Senate. They have to take back control of the U.S. Senate. Okay, this is why the Senate is so important. But we don't. A lot of us don't understand this. So October 12th, I'll be in Oakland, California with Michi X on the Black Agenda Tour. Visit blackagendamovement.com. I think it's a new website, blackagendamovement.com. And That's the new website. We'll be there the weekend of October 12th, that Friday and Saturday. And I do a presentation called 6 Principles of Political Self-Defense, understanding how laws and policies impact the economic conditions of African Americans. And I'll be on the panel also. So we don't understand concepts of political self-defense. So we have to understand law. We have to understand the Constitution. We have to understand where the loopholes are in the law, so we don't get caught up in them, in those booby traps. But we also have to understand how politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. And prosecutors are positions that are elected. Judges, many of these judges are positions that are elected. So you had people who started organizing and realizing, well, wait a second, we keep complaining about decisions that come down and police officers not being prosecuted. We need Can y'all still hear? Okay, can you hear me? So this is what they did in Cook County, dealing with Chicago prosecutor, district attorney Anita Alvarez. Okay, surrounding Donald killing, and it took her 400 days to indict or prosecute Officer Jason Van Dyke, even though she had the videotape and all the evidence was on video. Okay, so you had people who organized and ran Kim Fox as the prosecutor, and they defeated Anita Alvarez. So people in different parts of the country starting to wake up and understand how all these elected positions impact the lives of is not just president. Okay, it's U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, state legislature, governor, county commissioner, county executive, mayor, city council, city clerk, because it's the city clerk and the county clerks who count the damn votes. Those are positions we really have to go after. It's the city clerk and the county clerk that count the votes. Then you have the zoning board. The zoning board determines which businesses can go where. And we have too many of this type of business. We have too many gas stations. We have too many party stores. You can't have this type of business within a certain number of feet of a school or a church. Okay, that's the zoning board. We got to go after those positions also. Politics is the legal distribution of scarce wealth, power, and resources, and the writing of laws, statutes, ordinances, amendments, and treaties, their adoption, interpretation, and enforcement. So we have to understand political self-defense. Understand. So at the Black Agenda Tour, I talk about this, but also at the this past weekend in Houston, Texas, at the All Black National Convention, I was on the panel dealing with power and politics, on the panel with Dr. Ron Daniels, Dr. Boyce Watkins, and Jade Arendelle, okay, Lioness Crown who from Fly Nubian Queen. And I asked people who's read the document, Progress of the African American Community under the Obama administration. There's about 150 people there, only one person that read it. And he listens to me, watches my videos. I think maybe he found out about it from me, because every city I'm in, I ask people about it. Nobody's read it. It's at whitehouse.gov. Been up there for years. We don't read it. So how do you protect gains that were made if you are under the misconception that no gains were made? So when Donald Trump asked African Americans in front of a largely white audience, what the hell do you have to lose? Remember that nonsense? What the hell do you have to lose? People didn't know that the U.S. prison population dropped to its lowest point in 20 years in December 2015 under President Obama. Or there were 2.95 million jobs created under the Obama administration, created that went to African Americans. The unemployment rate for African Americans was cut by a little more than half, from a peak of about 16.7% in March of 2010 down to 7.8% in December of 2016. Okay. If you read that document, you understood what was at stake, because those policies are being attacked now, or they have been reversed. Just like we see a drop in the coverage of Americans who have health insurance. The census comes out every 10 years, but there's a census report that comes out every September. So the census, the annual census report just came out last month. So a lot of people don't know there's an annual census report that breaks down a lot of this information and shows the impact that policies have. Go to census.gov, because I've been reading articles about it. Then it talks about the drop in the number of Americans who have health insurance because of Donald Trump's policies and attacking the Affordable Health Care Act, attacking the subsidies that are attached to the Affordable Health Care Act, things like this. This impacts African Americans because the Affordable Health Care Act gave health care to 3 million non-elderly African Americans who did not already have health care. And the number one reason why people file for bankruptcy is because of medical bills, which then impacts your economic condition. So all of this is interconnected, interrelated. It's not just about voting. Voting is one part of it, but it's about understanding how elections have consequences and how policies are tied to elected officials, and those policies have consequences. Those policies impact you on a daily basis. All right, let's see here. So the presentation I do is 6 principles of political self-defense, 6 principles of political self-defense. And we have that DVD lecture at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. We also have it in a 6 DVD bundle pack, the Black Migrations 1619 to 2019 6 DVD bundle pack. Includes 5 of my presentations from this year, okay, from 2019. Okay, so we'll post that link here. You can check that out. You can order that if you like. But the way, so what I do is, see, my degree is in business administration with a major in marketing. I've been studying history for 27 years. So I'm not just a historian. I have a background in business, taught entrepreneurship for a number of years, but I've also been involved in writing public policy for the city of Detroit. I managed a company where we had county contracts with the county of Wayne, and we had state contracts with the state of Michigan for education. So I understand it, government at a city, county, and state level, okay? So my approach to this is different because of the experiences. I'm not talking about what I read in the book, I'm talking about what I've done in understanding how government creates an environment that business operates within. Government regulations creates an environment, it helps create an economy that businesses have to operate within, okay? So it's not just economic empowerment, no. We have to have a synthesis of African history and culture, which gives us our foundation, gives us our values, our interests, and our principles. And it influences our economics and our economic empowerment, and influences our politics and our political empowerment. We have to have a synthesis of all 3 of those. It's not just one. Okay. All right. So let's look at something here. Let's look to see if there are any updates. Let's go back to TJ. Attorney Kevin Fonse, Illinois, is still being ridiculed for the Jussie Smollett debacle. Yeah, but as she stated, that dismissal of the case, I forgot the exact terminology of it, but the dismissal of the charges and the resolution, as she stated, she does that for thousands of people. Okay, she does that for thousands of people. So the Chicago Police Department was upset with District Attorney Kim Foxx over I guess it was dismissal of the charges, and then imposing community service and a fine, things like this. But she detailed how she does that for thousands of people when it's something nonviolent. I'm not talking about murder. Okay, when it's something nonviolent, it's like a first-time offense, things like that. She talked about that. Okay. All right. SB, Kim, Lanny. Then also African-American business owners, post the name of your business here on the thread of the broadcast. We'll let you know how you can advertise with the African History Network. Email us at customerservice@africanhistorynetwork.com. Current promotion, get 3 months for the price of one. And we'll take your 30-second to 60-second commercial, put into the audio podcast of our broadcast on our Sunday night show, the African History Network show. And then also we'll promote you during our broadcast as well. Okay. All right. So we have a new advertiser also, Dr. James Ligon at oratrue.com, oratrue.com, oratrue.com. He is a dentist and he has he produces toothbrushes. All right. This is the African-American owned business. And this is a toothbrush designed for plaque control, bristles designed for optimal contact with teeth surfaces, ergonomically designed to feel great in your hand. The handle material is made from natural bamboo. All right. So visit oratrue.com, oratrue.com for more information. Millions of plastic toothbrushes are discarded every year. Not good news for the environment. Our natural toothbrushes are designed to reduce the waste with a biodegradable bamboo handle and medium bristles that will not hurt your gums. Bamboo itself is a fast-growing grass, so stocks are swiftly replenished. All right, so check out oratrue.com, oratrue.com for more information. Okay, I've got the article from New York Times. It was just updated about an hour ago. So I want to take a look at this here. Deliberations are going on for sentencing. And I want to see. Now, we expect a statement from the police union, spokesperson for the police union. It's probably not going to be good. It'll probably be something ridiculous. All right. So just be prepared for that. At a news conference after the verdict, lawyers for Botham Shem Jean's family recited the names of other Black people who have been killed in confrontations that drew public criticism in recent years. Trayvon Martin, Michael Brown, Tamir Rice, and said they hoped the latest verdict would be a turning point for racial justice and police reform. Attorney Benjamin Crump said, quote, for so many unarmed Black and brown human beings across America, this verdict today is for them. Okay. And he's a civil rights lawyer, a well-known civil rights lawyer, attorney Benjamin Crump. Though the issue of race was not mentioned explicitly in the courtroom, the trial unfolded against the backdrop of a diverse city that is 42% Hispanic, 29% non-Hispanic white, okay, or white, 29% non-Hispanic white, and 24% African-American. The mayor of Dallas, the police chief, and the Dallas County District Attorney are all African-American, as is the judge presiding over the case. Of the 12 jurors and 4 alternates, 7 are African-American, 4 appear to be white, and 5 are of other races and ethnicities. One thing that many people don't understand is that more of us have to show up to serve for jury duty. More of us have to show up to serve for jury duty, number one. 2, we have to be registered to vote. Being registered to vote is not just important in voting strategically, but also to be able to serve on a juror, you have to be registered to vote. Why? Because where did they get the names and addresses to send the jury duty notification cards to? Where did they get that from? They get it from the voter rolls. So if you're not registered to vote, you can't serve on a jury. So you sit back and complain about a jury verdict, but you can't even sit on a jury. See, a lot of people don't know. Oftentimes we suffer because of our own ignorance. Oftentimes we suffer the consequences because of our own ignorance. You can't, on the one hand, complain about jury verdicts, and on the other hand, you're not registered to vote, so you can't even receive a jury duty notification card in the mail. Then when we receive the jury duty notification card in the mail, we have to show up for jury duty. Now, if there's some type of hardship or something you just can't do, still show up for jury duty. Don't ignore it because they can send out a bench warrant after you. Okay? You still have to show up. But these are things that we don't understand, how these small things have large consequences and have a very large impact. Now, S. Lee Merritt, who was the lead attorney for the Botham Shem Jean family, said people in Dallas County worked hard to create an environment where justice is possible. And Lee Merritt also represented the family of Antoine Rose II, an unarmed African-American teenager who was killed while fleeing a traffic stop in East Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania in 2018. In that case, the white officer was acquitted by a majority white jury. Okay. Attorney S. Lee Merritt said, "I've been all over the country. This is the most diverse jury I have ever seen." That makes a difference. Okay, not saying that an African-American on the jury should just say, oh, because there's a police officer to kill a black person, that means that, oh, they're guilty. No, they should look at the evidence fairly. They should look at the evidence fairly. But having African-American representation on juries can really make a difference. All right, let's look at let me get another update before we get out of here. I'm looking at the sentencing. Let's look at some of your comments here quickly. So Sunday night, I'll be on Sunday, October 6th. I'll be on live 9-10 a.m. the Superstation WFDF. It looks like the baseball game will not preempt my show this week. So I'll be on for that. If you want me to do a presentation for your group or organization, email me at customerservice@African History Network, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. And we can make that happen, customerservice@AfricanHistoryNetwork.com. Oftentimes we suffer because of our own ignorance. That's what I said. Yeah, oftentimes we suffer because of our own ignorance and also not understanding the law. This is why I do the presentation dealing with 6 principles of political self-defense. Okay, and understand, because see, a lot of times we'll vote from election to election, but we will not vote strategically, and we don't understand how to assess the gains that were made in the previous election and understand that those gains are in jeopardy in the next election. So we have to vote for somebody, put somebody in office who is going to protect the gains that were made, but also create an opportunity for us to push our agenda the farthest and get the most accomplished. But to have an agenda, you have to understand history, have to understand law, have to understand the conditions that exist, and understand how policies will address the conditions that are arguing about and complaining about. And then we have to assess the policies and the track record of the prospective candidates to see whose policies best line up with our issues and concerns and our agenda. But then when the election's over with, that's when the real fight begins, because you have to hold them accountable and you have to be able to push your agenda to get the most accomplished. So we don't understand this concept of staying engaged. People should go to indivisibleguide.com, Guide, indivisibleguide.com, okay? And Indivisible is a document that was put together by former congressional staffers, all right? And let me see, I had Google up. Let me see something here. Indivisible, and I have a copy of the first edition of it in my backpack. Indivisible was put together by former congressional staffers who looked at the tactics that the Tea Party used to fight against President Barack Obama and really stymie and neutralize a lot of things President Obama wanted to do. They took that and put that into a document of tactics to fight against Donald Trump and the Trump administration. Okay, it's called Indivisible. 2-3 months ago, they just released the second edition of it. Okay, go to indivisibleguide.com and download that and read it. So you have tens of thousands of people across the country who are organizing based upon that document. And a lot of them organized to fight against Republicans trying to repeal the Affordable Health Care Act in the Senate. So when Senator John McCain was alive and he voted against repealing the a key portion of the Affordable Health Care Act, you had thousands of people, tens of thousands of people actually organizing across the country. And they would show up at their member of Congress. They would show up at their office on Tuesdays and protest. The House of Representatives, but also U.S. Senate, okay? And many of them were organizing based upon this document called Indivisible. Now, a lot of African Americans don't know about this, okay? But I saw them. I watch MSNBC. MSNBC is on right now. It's just muted. I watch MSNBC 6 to 10 hours a day and do research all day. And I saw them protesting every Tuesday. Rachel Maddow will talk about this because I first found out about this on the Rachel Maddow show, okay? And then after she first talked about it, you had hundreds of groups that were being organized, like within a week, 2 weeks, something like that, being organized all across the country. And it continued, all right? And this document, Indivisible, it gives you form letters on how to interact with your member of the U.S. House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, how to hold them accountable. It gives you form letters, form emails, things like this to send to them, and teaches you how to put pressure on them, how to hold them accountable. Most African Americans don't know anything about this. The other thing you want to do is you want to get on the email list of your member of Congress and your member of the U.S. Senate, but especially your member of the House of Representatives. Get on their email list because the House of Representatives, they're broken into smaller districts. There are 435 congressional districts, okay? They're broken into smaller districts. So you can go to house.gov, which is the official website of the house.gov, official website of the House of Representatives. And you can find your member of the House of Representatives. And you can find your member of the House of Representatives. And what you can do is you can get on the mailing list, okay? You can get on the email list. My member of the House of Representatives is Representative Brenda Lawrence, 14th Congressional District. Okay, I'm on her email list. So when she has town hall meetings, she sends out an email about it. She sent out an email recently, the last couple of months, to talk about the legislation that she helped get passed and the tens of millions of dollars that were brought to the 14th Congressional District. All right, so, but see, a lot of us don't understand anything like this. You want to go to those town hall meetings. Now, I'm on the board of Grits and Politics here in Detroit. So they come to us. That's how I met her. She came to Grits and Politics, and I met her, talked to her, met one of her staffers. The staffer said, give me your card. I'm going to put you on the email list. I got his card, right? So I get the emails from them. But the House of Representatives is on an 18-day recess right now. Members of the House of Representatives are going back into their districts. Many of them are holding town hall meetings, dealing with impeachment inquiry. Explain that to people what that means. They're also holding town hall meetings dealing with issues pertaining to their district and the legislation that they've gotten passed in the House of Representatives, but is being held up in the Senate, or it has been voted against in the Senate. Because there have been almost 300 pieces of legislation that the House of Representatives have passed since January 3rd, 2019. So when Trump lies and says this is a do-nothing Congress, talking about the House of Representatives, no, he's lying. Go to govtrack.us, govtrack.us, govtrack.us. Govtrack.us allows you to track legislation in the House of Representatives and the U.S. Senate, and to see how many pieces of legislation have actually been signed into law by the president. Okay, last time I checked, I think maybe it's only like 40 or 50 pieces of legislation have actually passed the House and passed the Senate and been signed into law by Trump since January 3rd, 2019. January 3rd, 2019 is when the 106th Congress was sworn in, okay? And Democrats took control of the House of Representatives based upon the November 2018 midterm election results. All right, and Democrats gained control of the House of Representatives. They've passed almost 300 pieces of legislation in the House of Representatives. Everything dealing with common sense gun laws, to protecting voter rights, to raising the minimum wage to $15 an hour. That was passed by the House of Representatives. Hasn't gone anywhere in the Senate. It's either being blocked or is voted down in the Senate. Most of these die in the Senate. This is why. Now, I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I understand who is passing laws that benefit me better than Republicans are passing laws. I understand who that is. I don't belong. I'm neither Democrat nor Republican, but I'm looking at these policies, and I see whose policies are better. And in general, it's Democrats. But go to govtrack.us. Most people don't even know this exists. And you can track the bills. You can track who sponsored the bills. You can read the damn bills. Okay? And then you can see who's holding up the bills. It's Senator Mitch McConnell, son of a Mitch, Moscow Mitch, and Republicans in the U.S. Senate. Okay, I'm checking to see here for any updates. Many have no idea who their congressional representative is. Right. So what you can do is you can call the congressional switchboard. Okay. And I'll give you the number because I have it stored here on my phone because I called the congressional switchboard before. And the congressional switchboard allows you to get to any of the 435 members of the U.S. House of Representatives or any of the 100 members of the U.S. Senate. And when you call, you can, it'll ask you for your zip code, and you can find out who your member of Congress is, and you can be put directly in contact with their office. All right. The congressional switchboard number is area code 202-224-3121. Area code 202-224-3121. That's the number to the congressional switchboard. You can reach any member of the U.S. House of Representatives or the U.S. Senate. You can get information. You can contact them to be put on their mailing list. I know you can go to house.gov, and every member of Congress and every member of the U.S. House of Representatives has a page on house.gov. They have information how to sign up for their email newsletter, get on their email list. They have press releases there. They talk about policies they support, things like this. Each member of Congress has their own page at house.gov, and senate.gov is the official website of the U.S. Senate. So all 100 U.S. senators, they have a page at senate.gov. So you could go and you could find out what your U.S. senator is doing, which policies they support, when they're having their town hall meetings, all different things like this. So it's not just about voting. We have to stay engaged in between elections. And many of us don't understand that concept. Okay, 202-224-3121. That's the congressional switchboard. All right. Now, sometimes you call, you get an automated service. Sometimes you call, you may get a live person. Because last time I called, I got a live person, scared the hell out of me. Okay, so just be prepared. Just shoot, I said, is this a congressional switchboard? She said, yeah. I said, usually I call, I get an automated system. She said, yeah, but we're taking, live calls here. So I asked for, I think I was asking for, that time I called, who did I want? I think it was my senator, your Senator Debbie Stabenow. I think that's what I was calling for. I can't remember. I've called a few times. All right, let's see. Okay. So deliberation is still going on as far as sentencing. And let me see here. I had it. I have it up live here on NBC News because they have it live in the courtroom. Yeah, so deliberations are going on right now. All right. So we'll be on live Sunday, 9 p.m., 11 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, 9-10 a.m. the Superstation, WFDF, here in Detroit, and we broadcast on our Facebook fan page, the African History Network Live, when we're on also. Erica said, this just means we have to work harder. Well, not just work harder, we have to work smarter. Most of us don't know any of this information I'm talking about. Okay, And we keep listening to people telling us don't vote, and they don't tell you the consequences of not voting. See, and the other thing they don't tell you is that just because you don't vote, that don't mean you're not participating in the process. You pay taxes. You know, your taxpayer dollars pays the salaries of the elected officials that are doing you harm, whether you vote or not. Your taxpayer dollars not just pay their salaries for the people who are doing you harm, it also pays for the policies that are doing you harm as well. So how many of you usually get a big tax refund and you thought you were going to get a tax refund this year, and come to find out, not only did you not get a tax refund, but you actually owe money? Did you thank Donald Trump for that because of his $1.4 trillion tax cut that gave at least 90% of the benefits to the top 1 to 10%? That's why you didn't get a big tax refund. Did you thank Donald Trump for that? The people that told you don't vote, did they tell you something like that was going to happen? This is consequences. See, we don't understand this. All right. TJ said not voting is what we have in the White House right now. Yeah, see, that's a consequence, right? So what happened was during the 2016 election, now I was doing nationally syndicated radio 5 days a week during the 2016 election. I was doing the Michael Imhotep show on the Empowerment Radio Network. I was guest hosting the Warren Ballantyne show. It was at 2015, 2016. I did Warren Ballantyne show for about 3 months. When Roland Martin came to the Empowerment Radio Network, I would guest host Roland's nationally syndicated radio show a lot. So he had listeners in Beaumont, Texas, Chicago, WVON in Chicago, some other affiliates. Then I was doing my show 5 days a week. And then also I was doing morning radio on Thursdays, Wake Up with Steve Hood, Thursday mornings, like I think it was 7 a.m. We started out at 8 a.m., then we pushed it back to 7. So I would get an hour and a half, then 2 hours. And then I was doing my Sunday night show, the African History Network show on 9:10 a.m. the Superstation. And I was warning people about what would happen if Donald Trump became president. I talked about his connections with Russia, all that stuff. Okay, I was warning people. But you had people who said, well, we're only 13% of the population, so how can our vote matter, right? And you probably know some of these people. Republicans feared the African-American vote more than we valued the vote. Republicans feared the African-American vote more than we valued the vote. See, I have a whole presentation I do called African-American Resistance in the Era of Donald Trump, Voter Suppression, Reparations, and How Elections Have Consequences. Okay, because I've really done a deep dive study into the 2016 election and the results. So there was 16.4 million African Americans registered to vote in 2016 for the 2016 election. 16.4 million. 59.6% voted. That was a 7 percentage point drop from 2012, when a record 66.6% voted. But see, something very interesting happened in 2013 that a lot of people don't talk about because we understand history or law. 2013 U.S. Supreme Court case of Shelby County versus Holder happened. In Shelby County versus Holder, what that did was that struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act in 1965 that most of us don't understand because we don't understand history or law. Section 5 had to do with pre-clearance, okay? And the pre-clearance dealt with, okay, hold on. People send me all these damn messages. I gotta block this stuff. The pre-clearance had to do with in states that had a history of putting obstacles in the way of African Americans voting, poll taxes, literacy tests, grandfather clauses, things like this, saying that you could not vote if your grandfather couldn't vote. Because of the Civil Rights Act, specifically Section 5, states that had a history of doing that, if they wanted to make any changes to the locations of polling places, to the hours that the amount of hours that a polling place can open, if they want to make any changes to when early voting could take place, how many weekends you have early voting, they had to get clearance from a federal judge to make any of those type of changes because they had a history of trying to disenfranchise African Americans. That's Section 5. Well, what Shelby County versus Holder did was that struck down Section 5 of the Voting Rights Act, which weakened the Voting Rights Act. So they don't have to get this pre-clearance anymore to make changes. So right after that, you had all these new voter ID laws that came into place. So for the 2016 presidential election, number one, 14 new states had new voter ID laws. And these were targeting African Americans, but also college students who are more likely to vote for Democrats. Okay. And they're trying to suppress the vote. You had 868 fewer polling places in the 2016 election, 868 fewer polling places in the 2016 election. Elections have consequences. Who nominates Supreme Court justices? The president. Who confirms Supreme Court justices? The U.S. Senate. So the 2016 election was the first presidential election in 50 years that you did not have a full weight of the Voting Rights Act of 1965. So you had rampant voter suppression that took place in key battleground states, especially Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. You had the U.S. Interstate Highway, I mean, not the U.S. Interstate Highway Act, the interstate cross-checking system. The interstate cross-checking system that was used. And the interstate cross-checking system knocked 1.1 million people off the voter rolls, okay? The interstate cross-checking system knocked 1.1 million people off the voter rolls. And the interstate cross-checking system was basically created and championed by Kansas Secretary of State, the state of Kansas, Secretary of State, Chris Kobach. And interestingly enough, Chris Kobach was made the either the chair or the co-chair of Donald Trump's fake voter integrity commission. After he won and Trump was spreading these conspiracy theories around that there were 5 million people who voted illegally, things like this. And then he created this fake voter integrity commission. And he made Chris Kobach, he was either the chair or the co-chair, because let me see, which one was that? Which one was he? Because the Vice President Mike Pence was made the co-chair of it, I think it was. Hold on, let me see. That was his voter integrity commission. All right. Let me see. Pull launches voter integrity commission. Okay, President Trump launches commission on election integrity. Vice President. Okay, so this is from abcnews.go.com, official website of ABC News, May 11, 2017. Donald Trump launches commission on election integrity. Donald Trump has signed an executive order today establishing a commission to review alleged voter fraud and voter suppression in the American election system. All right. This is from, what date was this? May 11, 2017. Okay. Vice President Mike Pence and Kansas Secretary of State Chris Kobach, Kobach, were announced today as the chair and vice chair of the bipartisan Presidential Commission on Election Integrity. Yeah, so Mike Pence was the chair and Chris Kobach, Secretary of State of Kansas, was the co-chair. The commission will review policies and practices that enhance or undermine American people's confidence and integrity of federal elections. It's a bunch of nonsense, okay? Because Russia helped Trump get elected. Read volume 1 of the Mueller report, okay? And you can go to NBCnews.com and just search for Read Mueller report, and they have the whole 448 pages. Read volume 1 of the Mueller report. Volume 1 dealt with the Russian interference in the 2016 election. This is the version that the Washington Post put out, and they have a lot of additional commentary and reports, articles, things like that. Let me see. Presented with related materials from the Washington Post. Okay, this was $10 at Amazon, Amazon.com. I think I ordered this off of Amazon. I think that's what it was. but I got this like as soon as it became available. All right, read volume 1. And now Trump is doing the same thing with Ukraine, with Ukraine, as well as Australia, okay, and leaning on foreign countries to get dirt on his political rivals, especially Joe Biden, who Trump knows will beat him. This is why Trump fears Joe Biden so much, okay? The same thing he did with Russia as a candidate, now he's doing with Ukraine and Australia that we know of as a president. Those are impeachable offenses. Those are impeachable offenses. That is abuse of power. All right. Let's see here. Okay, let's go back to broadcast. Let me see. Let's monitor this. People need to vote locally because people will be in front of that judge, the school board. It's not just locally, it's all of them. It's president, U.S. House of Representatives, U.S. Senate, governor, state legislature, county commissioner, county executive, mayor, city council, prosecutor, all of it, attorney, state attorney general. It's all of it. It's not just local, because the October 1st, this is the first day of the new fiscal period, of the new fiscal year. So the new budget goes into, the new federal budget goes into effect. I think it's $4.9 trillion, which comes from, the money comes from the federal to the state, to the county, to the city. We're dealing with federal law. We're dealing with state law passed by the state legislature. State legislature is critical. The state legislature has more authority over police officers and policing than at the federal level. But we don't understand this. So it's not just local, it's state, it's federal as well. All of it is important. Let's see. Yeah, not voting locally makes no sense. Not voting at all makes no sense, to be honest with you. If you actually understand how elections have consequences, you actually understand how this works. And see, Republicans fear the African-American vote more than we value the vote. Republicans know the value of the African-American vote. If our vote didn't matter, why do Republicans work so hard to suppress the African-American vote? This is what you should ask yourself. This is what you should ask yourself. Why do they work so hard to take gerrymandering cases to the U.S. Supreme Court if your vote doesn't matter? Okay. Why were there 868 fewer polling places? Now there are about 1,700 fewer polling places across the country. Many of those polling places are in largely African-American, Hispanic communities, shutting down polling places. Why, if your vote doesn't matter? No, they understand the importance of your vote, and they fear it more than we value it. All right, let's see here. Let's see, Erica said, I too wasted my vote unknowingly. I voted Green Party. I think it was the other female. Was it Jill Stein? Was it Jill Stein? See, the other thing is, when it comes to voting, you need to vote for somebody who really has a chance of winning, especially when it comes to president, especially in the general election. So I told people in 2016 that a vote for Jill Stein was a vote for Donald Trump, if you understand math. Now, if you don't understand math, and see, the other thing was, a lot of African-American college students thought it was cool to vote for Jill Stein like a lot of their white college friends were doing. Well, they have a luxury you don't, because you're more greatly impacted and your parents are more greatly impacted by policies and the economy than their families are, because the median household income of a white family is $171,400 compared to the median household net worth, I should say. Median household net worth of a white family based upon 2016 numbers is $171,000 compared to the median household net worth of an African-American family is $17,000. Okay, so they can go out, and even though going out and vote for Jill Stein was a bad mistake, because that took away votes from Hillary Clinton that helped Donald Trump win, especially in 3 battleground states, Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. Jill Stein got 50,000 votes out of Michigan. Donald Trump won Michigan by 10,704 votes. The interstate cross-checking system knocked 54,000 people off the voter rolls in Michigan. That's 104,000 votes. Poof, gone. Trump won Michigan by 0.2 of a percentage point, 10,704 votes. We saw similar things in Michigan, in Wisconsin, and Michigan, Wisconsin, and Pennsylvania. But see, we don't understand this stuff. Okay, so and the other thing was, a lot of people that voted for Jill Stein, a lot of them really thought Hillary Clinton was going to win, so they thought it was okay to have a protest vote. That worked out for you. Now you got Trump. Now, what a lot of people don't know is that December 2015, Jill Stein was in Russia at the 10th anniversary of Russia Today TV. And at the table, at one of the dinner tables, is Vladimir Putin. Next to Vladimir Putin was Lieutenant General Michael Flynn. Lieutenant General Michael Flynn ended up becoming Donald Trump's first national security advisor. He's on his 4th national security advisor right now, right? I mean, he's had more turnover in his cabinet than basically any other president in recent history. But this is after he said he knows all the best people and he's going to get all the best people. You may know all the best people, but they ain't want to work for you. So Lieutenant General Michael Flynn goes on to become Donald Trump's first national security advisor, and he's awaiting sentencing. He pleaded guilty. He's awaiting sentencing. Donald Trump hired Lieutenant General Michael Flynn after President Barack Obama told Trump, do not hire this guy because I had to fire him. Trump hired him anyway. He becomes his national security advisor. All right. Sitting across from Vladimir Putin and Lieutenant General Michael Flynn in December 2015 was Jill Stein at the table. So the question was, okay, who paid for Jill Stein to go to Russia to speak at this event? Who paid for her hotel lodging? All this stuff. This is not conspiracy theory. This actually happened. NBC, all the news outlets covered this. They have the pictures of them at the table. They covered this. And they're asking the question, well, wait a second. Who paid for her to go to Russia? Who paid for her lodging? So then you look and say, well, wait a second. Why did she stay in the race to the end when it was clear she wasn't going to win? See, former governor of Massachusetts, Governor Bill Weld, who is running as a Republican to challenge Donald Trump right now. Governor Bill Weld ran with Gary Johnson on the independent party ticket. He ran as vice president. He drops out of the race about 3 weeks before the November 8th election because it's clear that they didn't have a chance in hell of winning. Governor Bill Weld said, we have to stop Donald Trump. Why didn't Jill Stein drop out of the race? It was clear she wasn't going to win. Why didn't she drop out of the race? So personally, my theory is that it was to stay in the race to the end, take votes away from Hillary Clinton to help Trump become president. Because personally, I think she was either working officially or unofficially, either overtly or covertly, with Vladimir Putin. And what was one of the planks on her platform? Reparations for African Americans. Uh-oh. What was one of the planks on her platform? Reparations for African Americans. Now, when the research is done, you're going to find out that was calculated to siphon off a certain number of votes of African Americans from Hillary Clinton to help Jill Stein win. Because Donald Trump wasn't talking about reparations. He ain't talking about reparations now. So when you go do an analysis of the 2016 campaign, and I have, and you go study this, it was it was psychological. It was psychological strategy that was being implemented also that many of us still don't understand today. But if you understand math, understand it. So I knew African Americans that were running around passing out flyers, telling African Americans to vote for Jill Stein and saying we're gonna get Jill Stein to do an executive order to give reparations to African Americans. You do understand that violates Article 1 of the U.S. Constitution, because Congress has the powers of the purse string. That has to go through Congress. Ain't no sitting president. I don't care what nobody tells you on social media. No sitting president is going to do an executive order to give reparations to African Americans, because that violates Article 1 of the Constitution. Now, if you haven't read the Constitution, then you believe some fraggle bull like that. If you haven't read the Constitution, Article 6 of the Constitution tells you that the U.S. Constitution, these and all the subsequent treaties are the supreme law of the land. That violates Article 1 of the Constitution. That has to go through Congress. So they were coming to me talking about we're going to get Jill Stein to sign an executive order to give us reparations. I'm looking at them like, Negro, you crazy? But when you don't understand law, you don't understand this stuff. You'll fall for these games. All right. Okay. Let me see here. Let me look at one other thing before we get out of here. So be sure to follow us on our Facebook fan page, The African History Network, The African History Network. Also follow us on our YouTube channel, Michael Imhotep, Imhotep on YouTube. Follow us. Also, let's see, follow us on YouTube, and then also follow us Instagram is Michael Imhotep on Instagram, and on Twitter is the AHN Show on Twitter. Okay, follow us there as well. And then at our website, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, AfricanHistoryNetwork.com, all of my DVD lectures are there, so you can support the African History Network there. Also, you can donate to the African History Network, paypal.me/the AHN Show, paypal.me/the AHN Show. All right. I don't know what happened with this here. All right, Fraganackle is Michael Baston. Yeah, Fraganackle Bull is Michael Baston. Yep. This is the same way I felt about Bernie Sanders. He should have dropped out. Yeah, see, Bernie Sanders should have dropped out early in the race. And when it was clear, yeah, Bernie Sanders should have dropped out early in the race. He was just stubborn. You know, I don't dislike Bernie. I don't hate Bernie. He should have dropped out early in the race. Okay, he was stubborn. The Washington Post has a $10 version available on Amazon. The Mueller Report. Yeah. Yeah, that's how much this was. This is $10. This is $10. This is $10 from the Washington Post. All right. So deliberations are still going on. Dealing with sentencing. Okay. So stay tuned for that. Monitor that as well. Sentencing of Amber Geiger. All right, look, hey, we have to get out of here. Remember, at the African History Network, we focus on educating, empowering, and inspiring people of African descent throughout the diaspora and around the world. Because right now, it's corrects wrong behavior. What you do for yourself, what you do to yourself, and what you allow other people to do to you and get away with is based upon what you think about yourself. What you think about yourself is based upon what you've been taught about yourself. What you've been taught about yourself is based upon everything you've read, heard, and seen about yourself. Remember, right knowledge corrects wrong behavior. It's not over till we win. Wakanda forever. We'll talk to you next time. Peace.